A very warm welcome to you all to the orientation of High Impact Revision for Prelims 2025. I'm Sangamitra, R.C. Reddy sir's daughter, part of the management of R.C. Reddy IAS Study Circle. So I'd like to mention why we have as an institute started High Impact Revision. Prelims over the years with the institute's, R.C. Reddy sir's experience of 45 plus years and the institute's history of 35 plus years, we have seen over the past few years that prelims has become a stumbling block for many. Students who have the caliber to write mains, who have the caliber to be great civil servants, were not able to clear prelims. So we have noticed this and we have ensured that a program that will cater to all the aspects that are not working in their stride, that helps them to clear prelims. So we have seen that GS, or for many of them CSAT, some of you might be thinking CSAT, oh, I can do it, I will be able to do it. But UPSC has made even CSAT tough in the past few years. So it's important that you all understand that this program has been designed keeping all these things, the silly mistakes that happened during prelims, both GS and CSAT, all these and how to overcome those, why previous year questions are important, why is techniques important, all this has been put in mind and we have designed this program. So the institute has started this program, this is the third year that we are doing, but the past 2 years we have seen great success for the students who have put in their hard work along with us. I'm being very specific here. This is not something like R.C. Reddy sir always says that the student's effort is 70%. The institute coaching is 30%. Okay? So we have ensured that we give you the best program. It is the student's effort also that matters. So when I say the success of 100 plus students who have cleared Civil Services Prelims 2024, I am being very clear that the students have worked hard. The program is very rigorous, but it is important that you put in that effort to realize how to use these techniques, how to prepare, understand the previous year questions, what concepts to revise, and why each of this. Follow the instructions of the instructors, the faculty that we have, and understand the importance of creating such program. It's important that you are disciplined to follow it in the right way. So we all have given you the schedule for GS and CSAT and the tests. So the program is starting on 20th November. We'll go into the details as the presentations go on. But I would like to start with the success stories. One of the success stories that I would like to bring forward to you all. There are 100 plus students who have cleared Civil Services 2024 prelims. But one such success story is that of Anusha. Anusha Pillai, she secured AIR 202 and is an IPS now, about to go to training. Anusha is the daughter of Mrs. Renu Gonella Pillai, who was a 1991 batch student of R.C. Reddy IAS Study Circle, R.C. Reddy sir student, and both her children, Akshay Pillai and Anusha Pillai, have taken guidance from the institute. Akshay is an IAS officer and Anusha has secured, like I mentioned, AIR 202 in the last results. And Anusha had come to the institute, and from the beginning of her preparation, the institute has helped her, and she has a testimonial, you can listen to it. But especially prelims, she gave her first prelims attempt and she couldn't. I know for a fact that Anusha is a very bright student, okay? And she gave her first attempt prelims and she couldn't clear. And when she came with this problem, we had already started this program, like I mentioned, keeping in mind there are many students who have the caliber to reach to mains, to give interview, but are not able to do that. So when she took Civil Services Prelims HIR program from the institute. She has done it, like I mentioned, like R.C. Reddy sir says, 70% is the student's effort, 30% is coaching. We as an institute, we have recognized the problem and brought in the program that will help you clear prelims. So she has put in her hard work and has cleared prelims and gone up to reaching the interview and also getting a rank. So at each stage the institute was with her. So we will be with you also. But are you ready to put in that effort is what I have to ask all of you. And those of you who are online also. This is one such success story that the institute has, but there are many. We have Ramakrishna, who is also our student. We have many students who have Rudira. You can see their testimonials. All of them were not able to clear prelims and were able to clear and have gotten ranks. Ramakrishna has recently called saying, ma'am, I'm in the reserve list. He is a general category student who could not make it with 4 or 5 marks, that's all. He was not able to be in the list in the 2023 civil services. So now in his second attempt, he was in the reserve list, and I'm pretty sure he's young, he has many more years to come, and he will get a rank in the years to come. So it's this success stories, all of them are our students. It's important that you understand that this is an exam that is highly competitive, and the right guidance is in the right time. Right guidance in the right time is very important for you to be able to be successful in prelims. So with this in mind, we have created high impact revision. Gautam sir will be doing GS, and Surya Teja sir, who is also a forest service ranker, who is a student of our institute, will be taking CSAT. So it is, I would say we are very happy to bring such team in front of you all. And also Mayanka ma'am, you might not have seen her, but she is the one who is the program manager behind with the tests that we create for you. So it's very important that you all understand the kind of effort that goes behind in bringing the best for you all as an institute. So you put in your best efforts, understand the structure of the program, bring in the discipline that it takes. It's a very rigorous program. It has been designed that way to get you ready for prelims. So you gear up yourself and get ready for the program that is going to start in November. If you have questions, I'm sure you're putting your faith in us, so you might have questions, but what I'm trying to really bring to you all is there are many such success stories. I just have Anusha's here because of the time constraint, but there are many such success stories. You can speak to the students, but what I really want to bring in front of you all is prelims or mains or anything doesn't have to be a stumbling block for you. We have created high impact revision, keeping prelims in mind, and there is strategic revision for mains, and our interview guidance program is the best, I would say. There are many students who would come and tell me that, this is one of the best, I didn't even get it in Delhi. Okay, so we have such great programs for you here at R.C. Reddy IS Study Circle. Please put in your best efforts, and I wish you all the best. I will have Mr. Gautam, who is our faculty for GS, take you through the structure of GS program and what we will be covering. Part of this orientation is GS and part of it is CSAT. So do not take CSAT for something that, okay, I'll finish it. There are many students who lost it with a 1 mark, 2 marks. Do not take it easy. Make sure you put in efforts for CSAT also. Take them both with good, mindset. And we are here to help you clear prelims. That is the goal of high impact revision. So all of those who are online also, please feel free to put in your questions if you have any, and reach out to us if you have any questions. With that, I'll have it over to Gautam.
Good morning, students. Good morning, class. It's morning 10 o'clock. Right? So don't make it appear like evening 6. Right? And we are into the stage of prelims. Right? And we are into the third year of HAR for prelims 2025. Right? Now before I get into certain aspects, the today's session or my session would last for roughly 30-35 minutes. I would quickly run through various aspects of prelims examination, and I would also talk about some details of high impact revision. And if I have to tell you that what is the driving force behind coming back with this program and what is the driving force behind looking at the improvements in this program is fundamentally the success that this program has been giving. In fact, I can definitely tell you with all the integrity, right, just not to claim, but it is all with integrity that we can say that more than 100 people have qualified prelims 2024 from HIR 2024. So in that context, which fundamentally shows that the program is more taking you towards objective approach towards understanding prelims examination. Why? Because you generally see that many people think prelims is all about a myth with respect to it being very uncertain. In the sense, many people tell that, sir, questions are very random which are being asked. Anything under the sky is being put in prelims. And we also see, sir, I think my star alignment is not so good, sir. Right? I think my planetary position is not so good because I eliminate two options beautifully, but I am left with other two. I always choose the wrong option. Sir, I am lucky, sir. I am not so lucky, sir, in this context. So my star alignment is not so good. The third dimension, what people claim and say that it is very uncertain is, sir, we are on border, sir. Right? Either it is around 90, sir, plus or minus 2, we are on border. Now here, one thing that you have to understand any given day is all these are the ones which are fundamentally created because of some lacunae in the preparation. Now you have to understand prelims as such is not uncertain. Why? Because you see an individual who qualifies prelims once or twice will continue to qualify prelims. In the sense that there is some objective approach which is fundamentally seen with respect to prelims examination, that it is so objective that once you understand the strategy, once you understand the methodology of clearing prelims, you are able to clear prelims always. Now with that basic understanding, when you look at some basic analysis of what has been happening with respect to cutoffs, right, from this slowly we'll transcend towards the dimensions of prelims. Now when you look at the basic dimensions of cutoff, one of the lowest that you can see is with respect to 2023 prelims, which is 75. And in fact, I have taken last 5 years, 98 to 75, and this year approximately around, with a range of 85 to 90, approximately around 90. So on an average, you would see that for an open category, I need 90 to 95 marks to qualify this exam. That means if I just boil down to the number of correct questions out of those 100, I would need 45 to 48 questions to qualify this examination. You please understand this. Now that means if I am failing somewhere to get this 45 to 48 net correct questions, that means there is some fundamental problem with respect to the way you understand the exam. And here when you get to understand the examination, you please remember that this examination is not merely knowledge. Because I will tell you, if you observe a person who is continuously failing in prelims and who is unable to qualify this stage of examination, one fundamental problem they would do always in every attempt is they would start referring to new sources. They would start referring to new sources saying that, sir, I was unable to answer this particular question, so I will have to study this. I was unable to answer this particular question, so I will have to study this. So that means for every subject, when we start expanding the number of sources, automatically what happens, my dear? my consolidation is a miss, and automatically it will manifest you not getting 45 to 48 net questions correct. So in that context, first and foremost thing that any of you will have to do is understand the exam. Now when I say understand the exam, now this is the analysis with respect to 2024 and this is with respect to 2023. That means last 4 years I have just taken for an analysis. Now here if I just look at this basic analysis and if I want to get my approach right towards this exam, I will have to focus on 3 subjects and I will have to strengthen 3 subjects. That means I definitely see the share of polity is approximately 12 to 15 questions in every exam. The share of geography that you see 18, 16. So that means on an average again geography is between 15 to 18. And if you look at one more subject which is environment and ecology, because geography and environment are sister subjects. So you see environment and ecology 15, and again the share of environment and ecology on an average again would vary between 15 to 18. Why? The logic behind having a higher proportion of environment in a prelims examination is because we have Indian Forest Service prelims examination combined with civil services prelims. So in total if you observe a proportion of polity, geography and environment, the least that I can see is with respect to 42 questions and a range of 51 questions. So that means just from these 3 subjects I have my 50% of my prelims paper coming from it. Now this is one fundamental revelation most of us will have to understand. Why? Because I always keep telling in this examination one thing is extremely important, what I call it as the return on investment. Right? We being Indians, we always would want to look into what? Invest less, get more. Fundamental understanding. Now in this examination also the return on investment as a factor is extremely important. That where am I channelizing my energies, how am I doing it, what are we supposed to do and what subjects I am supposed to focus upon. Now this is one simple understanding that you will have to see. People say that there are changing trends, the trends have been changing, it is getting very random. However random it gets, you have to understand there is one assumption when UPSC is setting a question paper, that somebody has to qualify. When somebody has to qualify, UPSC will only move around with 2 dimensions. One is the knowledge perspective, the other one is the application perspective. Now 90% of you, or in fact 95% of you will be very good at knowledge perspective. If I ask you, in fact some of you would be a moving encyclopedia. That if I ask you some book, something from NCERT, something from standard sources, something from Lakshmikant, in fact you would rewrite Lakshmikant by yourself. Now in that context, when you have so much of grip on the knowledge, but you faltered to qualify prelims examination in spite of having so much of grip on the knowledge. And the fundamental reason is, you are unable to apply this knowledge under pressure. That is what is one fundamental dimension. And one more thing, what is constantly observed, I see that the factor of knowledge is dominating the factor of common sense. And more than 30% of the questions which are asked by UPSC you would never come across in your standard sources. Now when you see, when you can never come across your standard sources, when I have so much of variability that is seen, now I can't sit and read everything under the sky. All that I will have to do is understand a methodology, understand a technique to solve those questions which are not there in any source. That means what? The ultimate tool for solving such questions is what, my dear? It is the common sense. The common sense. Across the session, I would fundamentally show some samples of those questions. Now, one more major problem why people generally falter in prelims and why people fail to qualify prelims is silly mistakes. Right? It's a misnomer. It is not so silly actually. Why? Because every mistake is going to cost you 1 year. And if I have to simply tell you on the basis of analysis, and if I have to simply tell you on the basis of observation, understanding, experience, interaction, if I have to tell you and summarize, it is simple that a person who is qualifying and a person who is not qualifying, the difference is most of the times 3 questions. Most of the times the difference is 3 questions. When I say the difference is 3 questions, that means approximately it is around 8 marks, because 3 into 2 it is 6, and for negative marking I see another 2, that is 8 marks. Most of the people who are not qualifying and who are qualifying are in the bracket of 8 marks. And who is the culprit in this? The culprit is the silly mistakes. Now what is a silly mistake? Right? If I have to simply define what is a silly mistake, if you are able to answer a question inside the exam hall incorrect, and if you are able to answer the same question correct outside the exam hall, it is a silly mistake. Very simple definition, that it is the same person, it is the same question, but under pressure in the exam hall I am answering it wrong, but outside the exam hall I am answering it right, and I call it as silly mistakes. And most of the time aspirants would fundamentally, sir, I have done this silly mistake, I have done this, I have done this. Now generally, what are the reasons for silly mistakes which we generally need to know to minimize those silly mistakes? One major reason that I see is I am in a hurry, right? In the sense, I don't want to read the complete question, but I want to somehow answer the question, and most of the times this happens in polity, because most of us start our preparation by reading Lakshmikant, and that is our first love, right? So when Lakshmikant happens to be our first love, when polity happens to be our first love, whenever we see some question from polity, we are excited. And most of the silly mistakes you can find out with the aspirants who have given and who have not cleared prelims examination. Most of the silly mistakes occur in polity. It is purely because of hurry, it is purely because of careless nature. The second reason is everybody is an expert at this, that is overthinking. Everybody is an expert in this overthinking. We would never look at the question on the face of it. We would see that if this particular question is occurring in UPSC Prelims examination, it fundamentally means it can't be simple. Why? Because all of the civil services aspirants are belonging to intelligentsia section of the society. And to such an intelligentsia section of the society, UPSC can't ask you a question which is very simple. That's your fundamental assumption. Now, for suppose this year there was one question called, how many times the delimitation commission was constituted? Very simple question, very straightforward question, and people were speculating on the number of the times it was constituted, as if you were constituting newly. Now that fundamentally means what? That overthinking sets in because of unnecessary assumptions regarding the examination. We think UPSC is a devil. But you have to understand, at the end of the day, UPSC is just an examination. And UPSC just want a qualifying mark for you to qualify this examination. Now I'll show you some samples of the silly mistakes or the probabilities of silly mistakes. Now for example, this is one question where you see, it's a very simple question and it is an NCERT based question, right? And there is no iota of doubt in this. It is simply asking about which of the following are the products of volcanic eruption, right? Now one fundamental aspect is, you know ash and dust, you are confident. Now you start speculating with respect to nitrogen and sulfur. As if we are doing some experiment in the lab, we would check, this is nitrogen, okay, this is, then I would go for some testing there, right? And some of you will say, they have given something complex, pyroclastic debris. There is something behind this option. But at the end of the day, you have to understand anything can be released from volcano. You can't stop it. Neither I can stop it as a person who teaches geography. So you have to understand these questions are those questions which are going to make or break this examination. Now because why I have taken this question after prelims examination, I have seen number of people coming up to me, and when I saw their paper, they said it was only 3. But the answer is all the 4. There is no iota of doubt in this at all. I'll show you one more. Now why I took this paper from 2024 is, now till this 35th question, all the questions in the paper were multiple statements question. That means every question was intense. I was supposed to read the question, I was supposed to read multiple options, I was supposed to choose among the options, I was supposed to eliminate the wrong, select the right. Now suddenly when I see this paper, what happens? My eye slowly starts relaxing. Why? There are only single liner statements. I don't have multiple statement questions, it is just single liner. Now automatically what happens, my dear? Now I have gone through tough terrain, now suddenly I see something easy. You don't want to leave any question in this paper. You will feel like playing T20 on this paper, on this particular side of the exam sheet. In that context, what happened, my dear? In that context, there are how many questions? 36 to 42, roughly 7 questions are there. You believe it or not, I would have seen more than 100 papers from the candidates. People got 5 wrong in this particular section. I am not just randomly speaking, it is purely out of sampling and sample size. It fundamentally means what? That in this examination, again in some dimension of this, I see my emotions dominating my objectivity. My emotions dominating my objectivity because you're moved away by the kind of changes that have been brought in by UPSC in the paper. Now UPSC definitely deliberately plays like this. And I'll show you one more incidence of silly mistake where you can... This is one more question where people unnecessarily thought. Right? Because it is simple concept of what? TFR, total fertility rate. Total fertility rate means what? Average number of children which is given birth to by a fertile woman. Very simple. Now people majorly have marked, where is that couple wala option? Acha, this. I don't understand why. Now what is this, my dear? These are all silly mistakes which have been made by the candidates. I am not randomly speaking. Now in the sense what? These are the questions which are brownie. And a person who qualified 2024 and a person who did not qualify 2024, I can definitely tell you, it is this paper which made the difference. It is this paper which made the difference, and it is these 3 questions which made the difference. Delimitation Commission. And one more, you see, 71st Constitutional Amendment, direct question. Direct, M and K. Direct. That is what is this? Because we see 21st Amendment, we see 21st Amendment, 71st and 92nd. These 3 are related to 8th schedule. And people have confused. People have got confused in this particular dimension. Now these are all what? Silly mistakes, but they are not so silly because you have lost 1 year. And more than losing 1 year, it is the initial 2-3 months after the prelims examination, you were traumatized that I could not qualify. Right? 2nd time, 3rd time, 4th time, 5th time, 6th time, 7th time. In fact, if I have to tell you one memorable success story of last year HIR, there was a candidate who came to HIR program in her 7th attempt. She did not qualify prelims in the initial 6 attempts. OBC candidate. She came to HIR program in her 7th attempt and she wrote 2024 mains for the first time. That means after 6 attempts, she qualified prelims for the first time, and I can definitely tell you that is because of HIR, and that is because of the organization, and that is because of the structure of learning in HIR. Right? Now moving to the next part. I keep using this formula called KISS. Now generally according to us, we know that it is keep it simple and short, keep it sweet, simple. But I would say for prelims examination, keep it simple and straight. Why? Because I fundamentally over a period of time in the classes, I keep talking about primary thinking and secondary thinking. 90% of the aspirants unnecessarily go for secondary thinking, just like secondary thinking means just like doubting pyroclastic debris as an option with respect to volcanic eruption. Always remember, look at the question on the face of it. I am not going to look at the question in a secondary dimension. If X is leading to Y, I would just look at this relation. This is what is called as primary. If I see that Y is resulting in Z, and if I try to establish a relation between X and Z, I am calling it as secondary thinking, and 90% of the aspirants who are making those silly mistakes will think in this manner. Why? Because we belong to intelligentsia section of the society. Now you please understand, I keep telling, keep it simple and straight. What makes you keep it simple and straight at the end of the day in this process? One simple thing that you always have to remember is, I need to have strong basics. I need to have strong basics, and the game is going to be around my basics. And when I say strong basics, what you fundamentally understand, you will have to understand that in strong basics means I need the necessary information about that particular topic. And I know that UPSC categorically focuses on a bunch of topics. For example, if I have to tell you in polity, 5th schedule, 6th schedule, right? There is no question paper without them. There is no question paper without money bill. There is no question paper without a fundamental right article. There is no question paper with respect to judiciary. So that means what is fundamentally happening? I see that there are some bunch of priority topics which have to be covered. I need to have my basics right in that particular dimension. Once I have my basics right in that particular dimension, I need to have a consolidated notes on this basics. When I say consolidated source, I am not going to refer anything else. If I have to tell you an example of HR, in HR by the end of the day, we would have 300 pages notes after 45 days of the classes. And this 300 pages notes is for polity, geography, economy, S&T, history, right? All these 6 subjects. We would have in combined total 300 pages. I don't need to refer anything else apart from this 300 pages for my basics. That is one dimension. The second thing that you will have to understand how to keep it simple and straight is your necessary awareness on PYQs. PYQs is the most underrated player in the process. Why? Because you would say, sir, these are previous year questions and they are thing of past. We should not think about the past because they are things of past. Just leave the past. Acha. Now you have to understand, I'll just show you that this PYQ can be FYQ. A previous year question can be a future year question, which I will prove. And if I have to simply state a number this year, I see 33 questions coming from previous year questions. 33 questions out of 100 questions have been repeated from PYQs, and from which year to which year? I would say from 2011 to 2023, if I was able to cover, I have 33 questions in my pocket, 33 questions in my hand. Now 33 questions means simply it is how much? 66 marks. I would show them, don't worry. So I can definitely say that a previous year question will have high probability of it being a future year question. In history, I would never have a question paper without Buddhism. In history, I would never have a question paper without Vijayanagara Empire. Inevitable this year, Bhatkal Port, option A, Sri Krishna Deva Raya. You would never see a question paper without them. In the context of geography, you can never see a question paper without a drainage system. For example, in 2015, we had Godavari. In 2016, we had Brahmaputra. In 2017, we had Teesta. In 2019, we had with respect to the east flowing rivers. Right? In 21, we had again with respect to east flowing rivers. In 23, what was the drainage system with respect to the peninsular river system? And this year, we had with respect to Ganga and the respective tributaries and the arrangement from east to west. So in that context, what are you understanding? I have bunch of topics which are definitely present in my question paper. It is inevitable. In international relations also, I would never see a question paper without a question on Africa. In fact, in 2023, we had 8 questions coming from African region. So in that context, you have to understand PYQs will navigate you through the process. And the third thing that you have to understand, and third thing that I say keep it straight, is you please understand that this process is beyond knowledge. If somebody comes and tells you that this is a process of knowledge and I need to read 100 books to qualify prelims, you please understand that's not right. As an individual who has cleared all the 6 prelims, I am telling you, as an individual who has interacted with thousands of students, as an individual who has helped more than 100 students to qualify this examination just 1 year back, I am telling you that this is not just a game of knowledge. This is not just a game of knowledge, and this is something beyond knowledge. And what do I fundamentally say beyond knowledge? It is application, it is common sense, it is the technique, and more than anything, understanding or making sense of the pattern which has been set by UPSC. Now, because you have to understand that if I start testing on knowledge, you will get to know that everybody will qualify. But what is fundamentally UPSC doing? UPSC is trying to test something called as crisis management, which is the order of the day when you're in administration. I don't have resources, but I will have to generate resources. I don't have human resource, I will have to generate, I will have to manage. I will have to look at the crisis management dimension, which is extremely important and which is enabling you to learn from prelims examination itself. So that means it is just not going to be with knowledge, it is beyond knowledge. Why? Because maximum straight on questions I can see on the basis of knowledge will be 30. That's it. And the rest of the 70 questions, it is what? It is not direct knowledge, but it is purely derived knowledge. I will have to derive my knowledge on the existing knowledge. And if I don't do this business of deriving my knowledge, automatically what is going to happen? That is where I falter in my examination. And most of the candidates will be in a bracket of 70 to 80. And the reason why candidates are in a bracket of 70 to 80 after writing prelims examination is purely because they're just focusing on knowledge. So one definite thing that you will have to keep in mind is it is a game beyond knowledge, which you have to digest the fact. Now keeping that, I was talking about this dimension, can PYQs be FIQs? Definitely PYQs can be FIQs. Why? I'll show you some evidences, right? Now, for example, this is a question in 2024 and this is a question, where is this? Right? Same question is there in 2019. I see a question in 2024, in 2019 also go back and refer. There is a question on June 21st in 2019. So that is same thing that you have to understand here, right? Then you look at this year's. Now this is a question in 2015 and this is a question in 2024. What are they asking about? Plow in agriculture, what are they asking about? Are you understanding? So it fundamentally means, I'm just showing you simple examples, my dear, because at the end of the day I have time crunch. Otherwise I can show you all the 33 questions. I can show you all the 33 questions with the basis from 2011 to 2023. Now this is one more. Chandra Ketugar, this is 2024 wala question and this is 2021 wala question. Now that means what? An option of this year can be a question of next year. A question of last year can be an option of this year. So it fundamentally means a PYQ can be an FIQ. So previous year questions are not things of past. They are an investment to the future. All the investments are subjected to market risks, mutual funds, right? You will have to invest your time in PYQs. If you underplay PYQs, you will have to get ready for another prelims. So one definite approach that we are going to look into HAR dimensions is enough understanding of PYQs, enough analysis of PYQs, right? Now this has been very fanciful these days, that anybody and everybody, I don't know, I don't want to comment on the respective qualification of those individuals who come out and say that elimination techniques in prelims examination are eliminated. They say that, right? But one fundamental understanding that you have to remember, that I am here to make a blanket statement that elimination techniques can never be eliminated from UPSC. Why? Because if I look at elimination techniques as a technique, then it is a mistake. I will have to understand elimination technique here is nothing but what, my dear? Here it is nothing but common sense. Here it is nothing but common sense, which is not so common. Just look at question number 29. Now when you look at question number 29, consider the following. How many of the species above have poisonous species among them? Right? They are asking butterflies, fish, frogs. The only poisonous species that we know and which is our favorite organism, that is snake. Right? It's not there in the list. Now here one simple thing, many people when they read this question, what is the behind the mindset that goes on? When you look at this particular question, people will be like, I should have studied zoology. Right? I should have studied some research, I should have done some research in biology to solve this question. But my common sense says that any species can be poisonous depending upon the concentration it has. Yes, even an ant can be poisonous. A plant can be poisonous. Now any species which is created will have some variation and it can be poisonous at some stage depending on concentration. Now let's see. In that context, don't you think all of them can be poisonous in the context? Now what are they saying, my dear? Are they saying that all the species, or they are saying some of these species? Some of these species. Now here I don't need my knowledge. All that I need is what? Basic common sense. Right? There are so many questions like that. I'll show you one more. Look at 30th question. Now although it is an NCERT question, now if you fail to read NCERT, right, again my common sense comes into the picture. I definitely know this is not native, this is not native. इतना तो पता है बचपन से. Now you are speculating on this. If you are speculating on this, then you didn't watch Pushpa. Pushpa is all behind what? This. Now in fact Pushpa was so impactful that they had to recategorize the IUCN status of red sanders. Once it was near threatened, after Pushpa it became endangered species. And you definitely know it is what? It is native to India. It is an endemic species. Are you understanding? Now again, if I start saying that no, I will have to speculate on my knowledge, I will have to look at my knowledge, then it's a problem. Where is that favorite sheet? Yes. Now look at this sheet. Now look at 37. Which one of the following is the exhaust pipe emission from fuel cell electric vehicle powered by hydrogen? Right? Now many people have marked hydronium and came out. I don't know what is the basis. Right? I don't know whether you knew what is hydronium or not. Fundamental question. Why? I will have to answer this question. I don't want to leave this question because I studied National Green Hydrogen Mission. I don't want to leave it. But you somehow mark this. Now here, what is my simple common sense is, my dear? For any activity to go on, what is the aspect that I see? I need an activity of oxygen to be existing. And when I see oxygen reacting with what? Hydrogen. What is it resulting in? Water. Now do I need to derive a chemical equation here? Now some people have even written that. Fantastic. Now you please understand that at this juncture all that is going to sail you through. Now look at 39 question. Now look at 39 question. Now again when you look at 39 question, when it is talking about membrane fundamentally means what? I look at filtration process. Membranes are meant for filtration process to a larger extent. You would have heard about semi-permeable membrane. Reverse osmosis process mein, you would have heard about SPM. Bas membrane hai. Wastewater treatment. Now in this context, again, if you want to look at some other question, I can show you. Kya hai wo? Sustainable aviation fuel wala. Look at this question. Look at 46th question. Now when you look at 46th question, which of the following is the feedstock for sustainable aviation fuel? Now they are asking feedstock. Feedstock fundamentally means I am giving some input. For what purpose? Fuel. Means I will have to burn it to generate energy. Don't you think I can use everything of this? I can use everything of this. Now here what am I fundamentally talking about? I say that do not be too speculative about the options which are present with respect to this examination. Now that means my fundamental aspect is elimination techniques can never be eliminated. Because there are some techniques called extreme statements. We will discuss more than 25 techniques to approach a question. Now when I said 25 techniques to approach a question, it fundamentally works because it can never be eliminated. Because that has just become a fancy term. Eliminations are eliminated. Right? It could probably be eliminations are eliminated because the person who has tried to apply this elimination was eliminated. Probably. And elimination techniques can never be eliminated. Why? Because eliminations are behind the logic, eliminations are on the basis of common sense. Now, if you look at high impact revision as a general course, now when you look at high impact revision as a general course as such, what you observe is it would have, or the course would run for 45 days. The course would run for 45 days. The course would have, one is the GS component, which I will be handling, right? And CSAT component will be handled by Surya sir. Sir will discuss more on the CSAT dimensions and the changing dynamics. Along with this basic classes where we see 100 hours of sessions with respect to basic content. Then we would have 30 hours of current affairs. Right? This 30 hours of current affairs would be conducted 45 days before the prelims examination. And if I have to tell you the success of this current affairs program, I will show all of that convergence, don't worry. With this 30 hours last year, which was conducted somewhere in the initial days of May, we had 12 questions directly coming from the notes. Now, directly coming from the notes doesn't mean just the word. It is the exact statements which are picked up, and I will put the document of convergence. You can openly see, you can publicly see, don't worry. I would show that. So, we had 12 questions from that particular notes directly picked up. Right? Then, apart from that, we would also have tests. We would have 12 sectional for GS, 4 sectional for CSAT, and 1 full-length test with respect to, that is a kind of simulation that you do with respect to GS and CSAT. And along with this, we have the sessions on PYQ analysis. Right? We have the sessions of PYQ analysis where I will be teaching you more than 25 plus techniques of approaching a particular question. Now, because these techniques would come handy when I go beyond the knowledge dimension. When I am going beyond the knowledge dimension, I would see these techniques coming handy, where I just showed you all of them would be based on common sense. And please understand, when I am teaching this technique, I will not just give you the technique, but I will give you what is the logic behind the technique. Because that is more sustainable to remember the technique. Right? And along with that, we would have something called as a fact dose handouts. Right? Fact dose handouts in the sense that there will be some bunch of facts which have to be by-hearted at any cost when you are writing this examination. For example, drainage system tributaries is mandatory. The mineral sources, the countries and the respective locations is mandatory. Right? In that context, some schedules, some articles, some basic dimensions, some committees are important for us to by-heart in this context of polity. So, where we would be having a fact dose which is going to be provided in the case of, or in the format of handouts. Right? So, this is what is going to be the general program for HIR 2025. Now, if I have to talk about HIR 2024, was the high impact revision 2024 really having a high impact or not? Now, simple thing, 100 plus candidates qualified from HIR 2024. One more dimension is more than 40 questions were directly reflected from the notes. Right? I would put down, I would display, and the respective document of the convergence and the notes document will be posted in the group. Right? You can cross-check the claim. You can cross-check the claim. It is not post-mortem document. It is not that after prelims examination we sat and wrote those. No. It is fundamentally the class notes of some of the students which has been collected from HIR, and you see the convergence existing. And the other dimension that you see, was it really impactful or not? Right? You would fundamentally see, more than anything, the greatest impact of HIR would lie in consolidation. And you believe it or not, when people write CAPF, I get messages. When people write TGPSC Group 1, I get messages. When people write APPSC Group 1, I get messages. When people write UPPSC, Uttar Pradesh Public Service Commission Group 1 and their state service examination, I get messages. When people write BPSC, Bihar Public Service Commission, I get messages. When people write KPSC, I get messages. When people even write Group 2, I get messages. That fundamentally means this is a standalone notes which is sufficient to consolidate all of the general studies knowledge in the orientation of prelims examination. Right? That is the greatest impact, because one source being applied for multiple examinations is what is the greatest success story of high impact revision. And many people have qualified CAPF, different examinations, CDS, in the name of HAR, even though they missed the civil services prelims. So it fundamentally means we are all going to consolidate our whole of our general studies knowledge, which you would have studied for 10 months, which you would have studied for 12 months, which some of you would be studying for 3 years, in 100 hours of classes with 300 pages of notes. By the end of the 45 days of the program, in your hand you would have 300 pages snippet notes which is present in the class. And you will have to sit down and revise. And you please understand, high impact revision program is not definitely for a commercial purpose. We have done it with a greater objective, because if more number of people qualify prelims, more number of people write mains, more number of people write mains, more number of people would get an interview call, and more number of people would get an interview call, more number of ranks and more translation. That was the fundamental objective and ideal behind coming up with high impact revision. And in that context, you please understand, this consolidation would take place, and we would not leave you immediately the program is over. Now, as you can see, our schedule would somewhere last till January 5th for general studies, and after which you would have your full test, that is one test of GS and one test of CSAT, full length, right? Then after which you would have something called as a touch point sessions. Now when I say touch point session fundamentally means to look into the direction and to give you monthly plans. Because we will not leave you, because at the end of the day all of us are here for working one objective, to ensure the most uncertain part of this particular stage of this examination, to bring in certainty in that. And we are all looking at an objective approach, and we would fundamentally look at scheduling. And along with that, as this particular course is going on, you would also see I would be sitting one-to-one with the candidates who have already attempted the prelims examination with your prelims papers. Because when I see your prelims papers, I would be able to understand what is the blockage, what is the issue, where is the issue, and we can diagnose roughly 2 to 3 dimensions of it. And when we diagnose those 2 to 3 dimensions, you will be able to work upon those 2 to 3 dimensions for 3 months. So we would be having that particular dimension. Then along with that, we know we also have somewhere from the March, we have again one more set of tests. And when you look at this one more set of tests, roughly it is around, in total you would have 8 tests in that particular set. And somewhere here we would also have the current affairs program, which I told you, which would run for 5 days. Which would run for 5 days, which is a 30-hour revision of all the current affairs. And again, as I told you, the biggest success of HIR has been the notes of HIR. And as I told you that it is applicable for any exam that you write in an objective format. And you can see that there were multiple instances where you find this current affairs were directly reflected. As I told you, there were 12 questions in civil services prelims itself. Right? So that is one dimension that we would be focusing on, definitely on May 25th. Right? Hopefully, and I'm very confident that you will be a more confident individual when you're writing this examination. At least you will not have those apprehensions which you were carrying across when you're going. When you're going, what happens when you're just before the day of the examination? All sorts of disease you get. Right? Headache, whatever, fever, whatever you get. Now that is fundamentally because you were not more organized in your preparation. We are organizing, we are consolidating, we are revising, we are practicing, we are remembering, and more than anything, we are learning the art of clearing prelims. Right? We are learning the art of clearing prelims. This is not merely a dimension of a thing of subject, but it is purely derived out of my experience. Right, I have been clearing prelims till 2023. Right, that is my last attempt, and derived out of my experience, I am going to give you all of those dimensions which are practiced and which will be implemented in the exam hall. Right? ठीक है, so hope to see all of you in the classes. Now I would request Surya sir, and I think after that both of us will be taking the doubts in common, right? So please keep your doubts and we would together handle them.
Good morning everyone. My name is Surya Teja. How many of you think that if you had the chance to escape, you would walk out of this room right now? Right? That's what I did when I was a student here. So I always thought CSAT wasn't that important, right? I used to sit for GS classes, focus in the class, and then once it was time for CSAT, I always escaped. So I hope that you don't make that mistake, right? So before getting into what CSAT is all about, let me talk about me, because I always believe that conversations have to start with handshakes. My name is Surya Teja, and I have secured a rank of 66 in the IFS exam of 2022. Before that, I went to IIT, I went to IIM, and so that means I have an experience of cracking some very technical exams in the past, right? But what's more important is I failed twice with UPSC Prelims, right? I think that builds more credibility into what I am with respect to this program. And I am this person who believes that even if you don't guide someone for this UPSC exam, it's fine. But you should not be misguiding someone. Yet today here I'm standing in front of you trying to teach you CSAT, right? This is because of two reasons. One is because I'm completely convinced that this program, High Impact Revision, is very well planned, and it will ensure that each and every one of you will be writing mains in the next UPSC cycle. And the second reason is that I have put in enough efforts to ensure that I would do complete justice to the CSAT part of this HIR program, right? So let's look at what CSAT is all about and understand how we should be able to crack this particular paper in the next UPSC Prelims, right? And I think most of you already know what CSAT is all about. It's the second part of the Prelims exam, which is of 2 hours in the afternoon session. And it has 200 marks and 80 questions, and each of them will have 2.5 marks with a negative score of negative 2.5 by 3, which comes down to 0.83. And this is a qualifying paper which explains why we do not like giving enough weightage to this paper. But unfortunately, CSAT is a paper that has killed the dreams, the UPSC dreams of many people. And this happens mainly because of 3 reasons, right? So many people, what they do is they neglect this paper completely. I'll tell you a story of a friend who is an All India service. He's an IPS officer. And after he was selected as an IPS, he wanted to write the exam. And he also has optional mathematics. Just like me, I also have taken mathematics as an optional. And what he has done was he neglected the paper completely. He got a very good score in the GS part, which is paper 1. But in the second paper, he got only 65 marks, right? He fell short with 1 mark. And that's it. He'll never write the exam again. His attempts were over. So he's not going to be an IAS in his life, right? So that has killed his dream. So that is one very big issue that we UPSC aspirants face. What we do is we neglect certain components of the exam, right? And the second thing that what people do is they procrastinate. What they do is they'll think, okay, fine, the exam is somewhere around May or June. We'll focus on the paper right from April, and they keep postponing it. And then when it's April, they think, okay, fine, 1 month is not needed for CSAT. What we'll do is we'll focus, we'll use only 1 week before the exam, and that much is enough. And then when it's 1 week, what they do is they say, okay, fine, 1 hour before the exam should be enough for CSAT. We will finish GS first, and then they'll think they'll plan for CSAT in that gap between 2 papers. And then what happens is we'll have lunch. We'll be thinking about GS. There'll be no preparation. We'll find ourselves in the exam hall. We'll be there physically, but mentally our mind would be somewhere in GS. and CSAT would be a disaster for all of us. So procrastination is one very, very, very major issue for many UPSC aspirants. And the third thing is no strategy. Again, one of my friends in the, I think it was the 2024 paper, what she has done was, and by the way, she has cracked CAT. So she was my classmate in IIM Bangalore. So what she has done was she had no strategy for the exam. She thought, I have already cracked CAT, so what I'll do is I'll just go into the exam hall and I will figure out what I should be doing in those 2 hours. So she walked in, she thought she will solve some easy math questions, but she could not find easy math questions. So she spent almost 30 minutes trying to figure out where all the easy questions were. And she didn't find any. Then she thought, okay, fine, I'm wasting my time, I'll go back to reading comprehensions. And she went back to the first page of the question paper. And then the first set of questions were very tough. She could not solve any question. So what happened was she wasted another 20 minutes over there. And again she tried finding other questions at the back of the paper now. Because she could not find it at the first, she went to the back of the paper and she did not find any question again. And by the time she figured out that she was not implementing a right strategy for the exam, it was almost 1 hour into the paper. So all she was left with was 1 hour. And by the time 1 hour was over, she could solve only 5 to 6 questions. So now this 1 hour and the remaining questions, that looked like a very, very, very daunting task. And what she did was, she panicked, she could not clear the exam finally. So what we have to do is, we need to have a very good strategy for those 2 hours. Right? Not having those strategies is one of the main reasons why many people do not clear CSAT. So if we look at what CSAT has been doing in the last 2 to 3 years, it has become very tough in 2022 and 2023. And I'm sure some of you might be aware that people have even gone to judiciary to get the exam cancelled, saying that the exam was really tough, right? So somehow 2024 was slightly on the easier side, but still it was tough compared to what CSAT was in 2018 or 2019. So toughness is something that is being increased in CSAT papers, and that is eliminating some very deserving candidates, right? Of all these people who are sitting in this room, I feel that each and every one of you is capable when it comes to answer writing and also even sitting in an interview, right? But what happens is some of us do not give the right kind of importance to components like these. And what happens is only few of us get selected finally, right? So if we can focus on these tiny topics, it would not kill our dreams, right? We would be on our path to becoming a civil servant. That's what we all are here for, right? So CSAT has eliminated some very deserving candidates, and I do not want it to eliminate any one of you who are sitting in this room who are very keen to crack this exam, right? And another thing that happened with CSAT is some new topics are being asked, right? If you look at the 2022 or 23 papers, there's a lot of weightage given to topics like probability, right? And permutations and combinations. And then if you look at the 24 paper, number systems is one topic that had a lot of questions, right? So these topics weren't asked in the past, but somehow CSAT wanted to ask these questions in the last 2 to 3 years. And what we can do is we should be prepared with these topics, right? And as Gautam sir was also talking about this, you fail in this exam, you'll certainly lose one attempt and 1 year, but what you'll also be losing is your confidence, right? The next time when you sit in the exam, your confidence levels will be lower, your panic level will be higher, and that will ensure, that will give success to UPSC, right? So if you put yourself in the shoes of UPSC, what would you do? You have 5 lakh applicants and you have only 1,000 vacancies, right? So what you have to do is you have to eliminate some people and then only allow 10,000 people to write mains examination. And that's exactly what UPSC is doing with CSAT. But what we think is UPSC is trying to eliminate us through the GS paper. But the fact is that many people get eliminated in CSAT paper itself. So CSAT has become tougher and it has become a bigger eliminator in the last 2 years. Right? So this is my secret mantra, and it's not very complicated, it's very simple. It's about understanding the exam, and not just the exam, but also understanding the examiner. This becomes very important because, see, examiner and exam, both are equally important. What we do is, generally we try to understand the exam. We look at the question papers, we try to understand what is being asked and how we can solve that paper. But what we fail to do is we fail to understand the examiner. Now if you look at UPSC questions, the paper setter, the examiner is trying to play with your emotions. Just like how Gautam sir was talking about how emotions overpower you. That's what the examiner wants from you, right? He will set questions that would trouble you, that would put you in a panic mode, and he will ensure that you would make mistakes and eliminate yourself from this exam. So you need to understand the exam and the examiner. And then the second thing is understanding commonly repeated themes, right? How many of you think that questions get repeated in CSAT, right? Questions repeating in GS is very common. Many of us know that questions get repeated. But questions repeating in CSAT seems like a surprise for many of us, right? But the fact is that CSAT also has many repetitive themes, and we'll be looking at it, right? And then common sense. Just like how you are supposed to use common sense in your GS paper, common sense is a major tool to solve questions in your CSAT paper as well, right? We'll also be looking at some questions which can be solved using common sense. And then you need certain skills for CSAT, right? Ultimately, this is an aptitude test, right? You need to have certain aptitude, and we'll be looking at what these skills are and how we should be strengthening those skills, right? So these are the skills that are expected out of any candidate when it comes to the CSAT paper, right? One is very basic numeracy skill, right, which is the numerical ability skill. And this is not something that you need at the level of perhaps graduation or beyond. It's just your 10th standard skills that are enough that can help you sail through this exam, right? The second one is visualization ability. For certain questions, you need to be able to look at the question and visualize what is being asked in the question and then answer the question, right? So we'll be looking at how visualization is going to be important when it comes to few questions in the CSAT. And then comprehension is something that you all know about already. You have reading comprehension based questions. So you should be able to read a question, read a passage, and then understand it, and then answer the question that's given below it, right? And then common sense, I'll be showing you certain examples how common sense can help you answer questions without even solving it with pen and paper, right? Right. So, yeah, exam strategy is something that we'll be developing over these 45 days in this program of high impact revision. What exam strategy means is, one is the number of questions versus the accuracy that you have, right? Not all of us would have 100% accuracy or 90% or 80%. It depends on the person. So when we'll be writing mock tests in this program, we'll try to look at what accuracy levels you're able to reach to, and based on that, how many questions you have to solve in the actual exam to reach the mark of 66, that is 33%, right? So we'll be looking at questions versus accuracy. That's the first part of your strategy. And the second thing is which section to start, right? Some of us are good at reading comprehension, while some of us are better with maths, right? And some of us can do reasoning part better. So based on what your strengths are, we'll try to identify which section you should be starting with, right? For instance, a person I know who has secured a rank below 10, she told me that for her reading comprehension was the strongest thing. So what she did was she solved all the reading comprehension questions that were around 25 that year, and she did just some 10 to 15 questions of math and reasoning, and that's it. She was beyond the mark of 66, right? So based on your strengths, we'll try to identify which section to start with, right? So that will be the second part of your strategy. And then this set of mistakes. One part is the general mistakes, right? A lot of us make certain mistakes. We'll try to look at those general mistakes that people make, and we'll try to avoid them. And then there are certain mistakes that are made by you, right? These are very personalized mistakes. For instance, for me, it's always 2 times 2 is 6, 2 times 3 is 4. Right? This is one mistake I keep making all the time. So this has been in the list of mistakes that I make, and every time I take any exam that has mathematical component, I try to avoid this. Right? So when it comes to you should also be able to identify mistakes like these, and you should be avoiding them in the exam. When you step into the exam hall, you should tell yourself that you're going to avoid mistakes that you'll generally make. Right? So that's the third part of your strategy. And then the fourth, and which is the important part of any exam strategy, is smart solving, right? Rather than brute force. Just like how Gautam sir were talking about it, many of us try to overthink, right? We go to the secondary thinking. Instead, we should be simple in our thoughts and simple in our approach. We should just look at the question and try to identify how we can arrive at the answer, rather than how we are going to prove our knowledge or how we are going to prove our ability to solve mathematical questions, right? This is not a test of knowledge, nor it is a test of talent, but it is just purely a filter to filter about 5 lakh to 6 lakh applicants to 10,000 people who would be writing mains. Right? So what we should be doing to deal with that is smart solving, rather than doing brute force. Right? We sit down and we think we're going to solve this question until we get to the answer. But that's not what's needed. All you need is just 2.5 marks per each question, and finally get to the mark of 66. Right? That's all what we need. Nobody is going to look at what questions you solved and they'll say, okay, this was an easy question and you got easy 2.5, right? It's all about getting 66. So it doesn't matter which questions you choose or how you're going to solve any of them, right? So this should be our exam strategy, and in this program we'll be looking at how we should be developing these strategies. So here I want to show you certain examples of how we can solve CSAT paper very easily and easily get to the mark of 66, right? So this is one question which is very easy. It's just a question based on percentages. So you should be smart enough to identify such easy questions, and that is an art actually. You should be able to identify, being able to identify questions is not that easy, but you should be able to master that art. So once you find such easy questions, you'll get the answer within 1 minute, and you'll have 2.5 marks in your pocket, and you can go to the next question. So we'll be looking at how we should be identifying easy questions and quickly solving them, right? So certainly we'll be looking at what percentages are and how we should be solving it. But what's more important is identifying such easy questions. And then this is a question again in 2024. So how many of you think this is an easy question? Right? How many of you think it's an easy question? I thought it was an easy question. But I'll tell you what the problem is. See, the question here says you have to arrange letters in alphabetically reverse order. Right? What I did in the first instance was I just found the reverse order and I wrote the entire word incomprehensibilities, and then I simply reversed it. I wrote incomprehensibilities in the reverse order. Right? So this was wrong. Then again I noticed that this is alphabetically reverse. So what I did was I tried sorting it out in the alphabetical order. Then N comes somewhere over here, then C is here, right? Then O is here. And I kept doing this, and by the time I got to the answer, I almost spent 5 to 6 minutes on this question, right? 5 to 6 minutes is a huge chunk of what time you get to solve the entire paper. So what you should be doing with questions like this is simply avoid them, because brute force is the only approach that you have for questions like this. So instead of getting into brute force just for 2.5 marks, it is best to avoid such questions unless you have ample time. unless you've solved the question paper entirely and you're sitting idle and you really don't know what to do to kill your time, you should not get into questions like this. Right? Even if you're solving, you should be extremely careful, because just like how I showed you, I read only part of the question and I got to the wrong answer, and then again I read the question only to get to the right answer after 5 to 6 minutes. So that is a huge issue with this question, and questions like this are best avoided. Right? Now this question, look at this question. This is a very mathematical question, right? So one of my friends said even the brightest mathematicians cannot solve this question in CSAT exam hall. So I said it's not about mathematicians, it's about you being plain stupid, because this is nothing related to mathematics, but it's just about common sense. Right? See here, 32, all of us know that 32 is 2 power 5. And we notice that this is 2 power 27, right? All we have to do is make the bases same. And 32 power 5 becomes 2 power 5 raised to the power 5. And that is 2 power 25, right? And then 2 power 25 plus 2 power 27. If you take 2 power 25 common, you will have 1 plus 4 inside. That will be 2 power 25 times 5, and that will be 2 power 24 times 10, right? Do you see how neatly we could extract 10 out of this number? So this number is clearly divisible by 10. And if you see, I have spent less than 30 seconds to solve this. So if you do not panic when you see such questions, and if you apply your common sense, you should be able to get to the answer. Right? Let's look at the next question. Again, look at this question. This seems like a crazy mathematical question, right? 222 raised to the power 333, and again 333 to the power 222. In the first instance, one of my friends said this. He said this was not love at first sight, but hate at first sight. Right? So this is in fact scary. It's scary in the first sight, because these numbers are huge and they're raised to the power, they're not even multiplied. So it feels like you cannot solve this question in the exam hall, right? But notice the options. See, it's just like if you compare this with your GS paper, this is like only 1 or 2, only 2, 3, only 1, 3, all 1, 2, 3. We have seen such questions in GS, right? So this is exactly like that. So if you can eliminate one of these, which is 2, 3, 37. If you can eliminate one of these, you will be able to get to the answer. So let's try to eliminate one of them. Let's start with 2. Now 2 to 2 power 333. Here if you notice, in the units place you have 2. Powers of any even number would be even, right? Which has 2 in the units digit. So if you look at, if you just look at 2 as a number, 2 power 1 is 2. 2 power 2 is 4. 2 power 3 is 8. And then 16. 2 power 4 is 16. So units place is always even. So which means 2 power 333 is going to be even. Similarly, 333 power 222. If you look at the units digit, it's 3. So if you raise this to any power, 3 power 1 is 3. 3 square is going to be 9. 3 cube is 27, which has 7 in the units digit. And then 3 power 4 is 81, which has 1 in the units digit. So this number is odd. So even plus odd is odd. So this number is not divisible by 2. This is your answer. Right? So if you look at this, we've arrived at the answer in less than a minute. But this happens only when you do not panic looking at this question and do not experience hate at first sight or fear at first sight. Okay? Right. So we'll look at some other questions. Again, this one shows the importance of visualization, right? Now this question is all about taking directions, walking in a certain direction, taking a left or right turn, and then walking a certain distance in another direction. So if you can visualize it like this, initially he walked for 100 meters, and then he took a left turn, and then he took a left turn again and right turn. If you visualize this and compare it with what you already know, which is the magnetic compass, right? North, south, east and west, and then here you have northeast and so on, right? So if you can compare this with this, you'll be easily able to identify how north in this case is going to be south actually in the actual directions. So here we'll be able to arrive at the answer of, I think the answer was northwest. So we'll look at how we can visualize such questions in the class, right? But here what I wanted to show you with this question is visualization becomes a very, very important skill when it comes to CSAT. Then again, this one, somehow this question surprised me in the exam, because this question looked like it was very easy and the answer was this. The answer was this, and I thought it was pretty straightforward. But somehow many people have marked this. It's because people were unable to understand what these statements meant, these two statements. The first statement says, the cost of P is not more than that of R, right? Which means P is not more than R. It can be less than R. It can also be equal to R. But what happens is people miss this case. P less than R is what they identify, but they miss that it can also be equal, right? Similarly, the second statement says, the cost of R is not more than that of P. So, what people do is R less than P, but what they miss is equal to. So, when they miss equal to, what they do is when they miss equal to, they say P is less than R, R is less than P. So, these two statements are inconsistent and hence they go for option D. But if you identify that it can be equal, P equal to R is a possibility. Correct? So, if P is equal to R, here you will identify that Q is given to be 16, P plus Q plus R, P plus Q plus R is 50, Q is given to be 16, so P plus R should be what? 50 minus 16 is 34. What's up, folks? You're not attentive or what? So P plus R is 34, right? And if P is equal to R, you'll get P equal to R equal to 17. So using these two statements, you can get to the answer. That means C should be the right answer. But what people do is they think P less than R, R less than P is given. Hence you cannot get values for P and R. So that was a very common mistake that many people made. And after this program, what we'll do is we'll avoid such mistakes. Okay. And this one again troubled many people. What is this XYZ? This looks like a headache to many of us, right? XYZ, 6-digit number. We always dealt with only 3 or 4-digit numbers, but this is 6-digit number, and it's crazy how XYZ and XYZ are repeated, and is asking about divisibility. Look at these numbers, 7, 11, 13. It's all scary, right? But if you see, this can be written as XYZ times 1000 plus XYZ. Then you take XYZ into 1000 plus 1. What is this number? It's 1001. And 1001 is nothing but 7 times 11 times 13. So the answer is D. The answer is D. Right. Look at how we've spent less than 15 seconds to solve this question. And most of us already know this 1001, 7, 11, 13 divisibility rules and all of that. So what we do is we try to implement these divisibility rules of 7, 11, 13, and we'll be killing time and nothing else. We'll be also killing our dreams later. So instead what we can do is we can be smart here. So this is about smart solving your CSAT questions. And again, this is another visualization problem where you have to visualize what the question is asking you. It's asking about, it says 125 identical cubes are arranged in a cubical block. So if you can visualize, it's nothing but this big 5 by 5 by 5 Rubik's cube. And he says how many cubes are surrounded by other cubes from each side. He's just building a story into it, but all he's asking is what are the number of uncolored cubes in this 5 by 5 by 5 cube. So if you can visualize, it's nothing but this 3 by 3 by 3 cube. And how many cubes do we have in this 3 by 3 by 3? It's 27. So the answer is 27. See how smart solving has brought you to the answer. Okay? Then again, this is one very beautiful mathematical concept which I want to talk about in the class. Right? But I'll just give you a quick glimpse of what this tool is. So here he is asking about a number n formed by 99 times, right? And the remainder when divided by 13. 99 times itself is a nightmare, and you're asking me to divide it by 13, which is a prime number, which is, I do not even remember the table of 13. So it's all scary. But in this mathematical concept, something called congruence modulo, let's not worry about the name. What we'll do is we'll try to find remainders very easily. See, I call this the magic of remainders. So instead of 9 written so many times, let's consider this 10 power 99, right? 9 written 99 times is nothing but this number minus 1. So the remainder that I would get for that number is nothing but the remainder I would get for this number minus 1. Right? So I'll just try to find the remainder that I'm going to get for this number, and I'll subtract 1 at the end. Now for this number, I'll try to break it down into smaller numbers. Here I've taken 10 power 3. And like how I was talking about 1001, 1001 is divisible by 13. So 10 power 3 is nothing but 1000. So if you're dividing it by 13, the remainder you have is minus 1 or 12. But I'll take minus 1. Okay? So here I've taken the remainder minus 1. Now I'll raise this to the power 33 on both sides. This mathematical concept, congruence modulo, says the remainder would be the same when I raise the power, equal powers on both sides. So 10 power 3 whole power 33 becomes 10 power 99, and minus 1 power 33 becomes minus 1. Okay? And what did I say in the when we took 10 power 99? We said the remainder minus 1 is going to be the actual remainder. So here we got to minus 1 as the remainder, and minus 1 is going to be minus 2. And since we are talking about 13, minus 2 will be equivalent to 11. Hence 11 is a remainder. This is the answer. I'm sure most of you are confused and did not get this concept, because in the first instance even I did not understand this concept. So we'll talk about this in the class. We'll play with this tool, and this will certainly help you solve at least 2 to 3 questions. Okay, that's almost 5 to 7.5 marks. Right? This will take the burden of 5 to 7.5 marks of your 66 marks. Okay, so we'll talk about this more in the class, and we'll dedicate enough time to this so that we'll master this tool. Now look at this, the beauty of this question. Here, there's a pattern that's asked. Again, the pattern may look, you may not be able to understand what this pattern is talking about, and getting to the answer might look very difficult when you're in the actual exam hall. But if you're smart enough, you'll notice that there are two B's here. And there are two B's here. So this gives you a hint that he's just trying to repeat the letters of A, B, C, D. So if you try to fill them, here if you repeat C, here we repeat A, here we repeated B, he'll be repeating C, and this would be D. Right? So A, B, C, D, D, A, B, C, C, D, A, B, B, C, D, A, B, C, D. That's your sequence. Okay, so the combination of two B's gave me the hint to arrive at this answer. But what's more beautiful about this question is, this was a 2023 question and this is a 2024 question. Do you notice any similarity? It's exactly the same question. Exactly the same, and there's no difference at all. Right? So it's just the same. Here again it's a repeating pattern of BB, and you'll have a CC here. Right? So it's just a repetitive question. So that shows the importance of solving PYQs not just in GS but also in CSAT. Put yourself in the shoes of the examiner. What would you do? You have to design a CSAT paper of 80 questions. What you'll do is you'll just develop a master set of some 500, 600 questions, and every year you'll try to pick these 80 questions from this 500 set. And that's exactly what UPSC is doing. Even not just for civil services, but also for other exams like CAPF. I think CDS also has a aptitude component. So all these exams have very similar questions. Right? Even the cubes question that I was talking about earlier, that also has been repeated in multiple exams before. So in this program, we'll be looking at how we can identify PYQs and commonly repeated themes. Okay, this is another question that can be solved very easily with common sense. Right? So it's the test of smartness here. You don't have to make, here the question is asking about A, B, C, D, S square, and then it's asking about 2 points on each side and things like that. But if you look at it closely, if you're smart enough, you can easily get to the answer, which is 20. We'll discuss this in the class. Yeah, this one. This is again another beautiful question where you have to be smart. You have to get a little creative and identify how you can solve the question. Right? So first let's look at the question. What is the number of selections of 10 consecutive things in a circle? So he's asking about clockwise. He's asking about 10 consecutive things out of 12 things. Does this ring a bell? Because every day we'll be looking at the clock or a watch which has 12 things. All of them are consecutive, and you usually look at the clock in a clockwise direction. So what I did in the exam hall was this. I drew a clock. You have 12 hours, 12 things, and you have to pick 10 consecutive things out of this. He's asking you to pick 10 consecutive things. So one such selection is 1, 2, 10. Correct? So we've picked 10 things out of 12 things. Instead, what I can do is, instead of picking 10 things, 10 consecutive things, what I'll do is just deselect. He's asking you to select 10 things. I will deselect 2 consecutive things. It's the same, right? Selecting 10 consecutive things and deselecting 2 things out of these 12 things. So what I'll do is, I'll deselect 2 things. 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6, 7, 7, 8, 8, 9, 9, 10, 10, 11, 11, 12, and 12-1. Some of us might have missed this 12-1, right? So we'll also avoid such mistakes. But if you look at this, we've selected 2 consecutive things in 12 ways. So this question, which looks complex, is actually simple if you look at your day-to-day things. You look at the clock every day and you just have to find an association between the question and what you see every day. Okay, so we'll try to look at such associations in the class. We'll try to look at how we can be creative and smart when it comes to some questions that can be complex. Right, so this is a little trailer that I wanted to give you about what we'll be doing in the class. Now, what are the key takeaways from what we've done so far? See, the CSAT performance boils down to how we are going to pick easy questions to solve and get to the 33% mark. Okay, so we'll develop a strategy to identify easy questions and how to solve them very quickly. And the next thing is how to make a customized strategy by matching your strengths with the paper. Like I was saying earlier, some of us might be good at comprehension, some of us might be good with math. So we'll try to identify what your strengths are, and then we will develop a strategy for those 2 hours of the actual D-Day. Right, then again, avoiding general errors and also enlisting a set of personal errors. Right, like I was mentioning, I always make a multiplication mistake with 2. You can also have a list of such errors and we can avoid them. And then finally, we'll also be looking at how we can be smart, how we can visualize and be creative, like the clock question. So we'll be looking at being smart and creative and visualizing. And I'm pretty sure HIR program will help you find answers to all these questions. How to pick easy questions, how to be creative, how to get past the 33% score, right? So let's focus on these topics, and I have developed a schedule to ensure that all of these aspects of the exam are covered. So this is broadly how the schedule is going to look like. We might tweak it a little bit here and there, but this is broadly the schedule. And you might already have received the schedule. So firstly, we'll be looking at some very mathematical topics. These are easy and mathematical topics. And in the second section, we'll be looking at some other mathematical topics, but our major focus would be number systems with the divisibilities and remainders and all of that. And in the third section, again, we'll be looking at some amount of reasoning and topics like order and ranking. But our focus would be here, from which we are getting many questions in the last 2 to 3 years. Right? And section 4 is going to be more of reasoning and questions like cubes and dices, blood relations, which are being asked every year. So we'll be looking at these questions, and we'll also be looking at reading comprehension, not just in the section 4, but we'll try to accommodate some amount of comprehension in each section. Because comprehension is something, it's a skill that keeps developing over time. So we'll try to develop that skill across all the sections. So with this high impact revision, I'm looking at a couple of highs that each and every one of you must get. Right, today in this room, there might be very few people who can say that I'd be very comfortable with CSAT. But by the end of this program, I want each and every one of you to be high in confidence and say that I can easily solve CSAT. So that would be the goal of this high impact revision for me. Okay. So I think that's it. That's about how CSAT is going to be in the program and what we'll be dealing with. I think we can take questions now if you have any. Any questions related to GS or CSAT or life in general? See, I did not have this opportunity of meeting any person who was selected or who had experience with the exam. In fact, I was complaining to Gautam and Sangamitra ma'am also that when I failed my first prelims, I was actually wondering if anyone could help me, could handhold me and take me to the exam hall with a very good preparation. But unfortunately, there was no such program of sorts for such hand holding. But today, each and every one of you is lucky because you have a program like HIR. And I'm not just endorsing this because I have to endorse it, but it's because I went through what HIR has done in the past. And HIR is something that I would have wanted to have when I failed in my first prelims. But unfortunately, I did not have it back then. But you're fortunate to have it now. So I believe that you'll make the best use of it. And I don't think this is something like a academic program where it's all about one-directional communication. I believe in two-directional communication where it's more like fellow aspirants discussing things with you just because we have gone through the exam a couple of times. So let's keep it that way. Let's keep it friendly and interactive. And I'm looking forward to meeting each and every one of you in the class. Thank you. Okay, do we have any questions from the online folks? Okay, the statement and reasoning questions. We'll discuss about it in the class. We'll look at how statements and how to identify what sort of questions come and how we can solve them. And maybe we'll also try to evolve a couple of techniques to solve these questions with high accuracy. Can you please suggest how to build basics for students who's really bad with maths? Okay, fine. Math basics, I think each and every one of you have had mathematics in until your 10th standard. So what I would suggest is go back to your school textbooks, any textbook, any be it SSC or CBSE or any other stream. You need to be fresh with your basics, right? What are these basics? Basics are nothing but your basic numeracy, foundational numeracy, right? What's this report by ASCR that keeps talking about foundational literacy and basic numeracy, right? So that's exactly what you need for CSAT, which is basic numeracy. And for that, you can look at any school textbook until your 10th standard. If you're confident about it, it's fine. But if you're not confident, you can go back to your school textbooks and look at them. Right? And apart from that, we'll be looking at PYQs. We'll be looking at certain tools to solve some easy questions. Okay? And we'll also be writing some mock tests. So that will also help you develop your strength and your skills with respect to CSAT exam. Any more questions with respect to CSAT? That's it, right? Okay. Fine, thank you. I'm excited, and I always believe that mathematics and this quantitative reasoning is fun. So let's have fun in the class. Let's see how we can get creative, how we can identify certain elements that can be both fun and also rewarding. Okay, looking forward to meet you in the class. Thank you.
Just a quick one, like any questions in GS? And regarding GS? So the one-to-one session with prelims, how will it be for online? Right? We would arrange certain Zoom sessions for online students. Right? So nothing to worry in that context. Any other? Some tips for beginners regarding HIR. Right? Everybody is same. No beginner, no experienced. Prelims is same for everybody. At the end of the day, everybody will have to qualify. It is not that somebody qualified this exam thrice and you have a reservation of qualifying this exam thrice. We don't have that. Now when you talk about beginners, all that I would tell you is, in fact, beginners would be at an advantageous position. Why beginners would be at an advantageous position? Because we don't have too much of information. So it's easily moldable in that context, right? So could we join only GS module? No, my dear. It is high impact revision program for both GS and CSAT. Right? Can an online student get a chance to interact offline? Yes. And you can come down anytime and meet. Sir, any suggestions for current affairs? I would say follow newspaper. If you haven't followed newspaper, then rely upon a magazine. In fact, RC Reddy AI Study Circle has a separate magazine for prelims oriented current affairs. Now, I don't think that is existing anywhere. right? So that is in fact a smaller one which is existing. You can pick that up if you want something which is related to prelims oriented current affairs, and you can quickly skim through those magazines, right? That can be there. Sir, what is the approach for mains during this time period, right? I would say you can attend HIR sessions, and whatever is the time that is left out, if I have to simply put it, total day minus HIR classes and HIR revision is equals to mains prep. Simple equation. अभी CSAT wave चल रहा है, so I thought I'll give it in an equation. So if you want to plan till January, maybe Jan 10th, Jan 15th, abhi you want to balance mains wala prep, then I can tell you attend classes, revise the notes, and whatever is the time that is left, you can definitely focus on mains, right? So that can be one simple thing. Sir, how can we attempt tests if we choose online mode? You would have online tests, my dear. That would be there. Sir, class timings and the PDFs will be given for class. Now, notes will not be given as PDFs, right? Class notes is notes which is written in class, right? There is no PDF, and if you wish to make PDF of your own class notes, right, then there will be some constraints which I will talk upon in class, right? Something will happen after that I would discuss, but otherwise there is no PDF with respect to class notes. You would have PDF only with respect to fact dose. I told about fact dose. Only with respect to fact dose you will be given in a PDF format, nothing beyond that, right? My coaching started just 2 months back. Without completing the syllabus, is that okay to attend HIR, sir, for 2025, right? Now, if you are attending 2025 or if you are attempting 2025, technically you should be finishing your basic preparation at least by the end of December. So probably if you wish to take this course as a beginner also, maybe it would enhance your understanding in the subjects, right? So that would be one advantageous dimension that you have. Sir, any strategy for working professional? Now working professional would have some limited time, I know. Now for an individual who is working, I would fundamentally say till the HIR program gets over, ensure that you finish the classes. Once you are able to finish those classes, then probably after the HIR program is over, for all of those who are working, I would definitely suggest it would be the first batch which is better, right? And in that context, I would say that you will have to look into this dimension which will be advantageous there, such that you have your notes ready by January at least. Now when you have your notes ready by January, then you can again focus on revision and accordingly you can allocate. Any other question? Online, offline? So that is it, right? Hope to see all of you in the class. Thank you.